Welcome to If It's Worth Loading, It's Worth Overloading. Hey, my name is Eric, and the inspiration for this video came on Twitter the other day in a discussion about overloading. And overloading is a new concept that has come to the world of Business Central due to the new compiler. Actually, let's dive right into it, because it's probably easier to show than it is to explain. So here is my Visual Studio, and let me just create a code unit here. Code unit, overloading, not capital L. So the concept of overloading is that we have multiple functions, procedures with the same name, but with different signature. So let's try this out. So we'll create a procedure here called create a customer, and it will return a customer variable. Let's create this one that's very simple, var. In this case it's actually very simple, because let's just do, let's do this. So customer.init, customer.insert true, and that's it. And let's create a test file also here. So we could do a page extension for cost list, customer list, actions, add first to processing. How about that? Action test overload, caption equal create customer, application area, that's it. Trigger on action, and then I'll grab my code unit I just created. Let's call it create customer code unit. And what did I call it? Overloading. So here I could now do I could do create customer dot create customer and pass a record to it. So that's pretty fine. Let's look at one thing before we do that. So if I do create customer dot, you can see that I get the IntelliSense saying, hey, there's a function called create customer, and I get the signature saying that there's a parameter here. So that is nice. But what we can do with overloading is let's create another one. So perhaps we want to, let's do another one, and we call this now the exact same name. And let's add a name parameter here, and var customer record custom. Wow, customer. So, let's actually customer, sorry, record customer. So now we can see that we have two functions. So if I go back to this one, I only get one because I want to create a customer. But if I look at this now, you see the one of two here. So now the IntelliSense tells me that there are two ways that I can complete the call to create customer successfully. I could pass just a record, custom record, or I could pass name string, name as a string, as text, and a customer. So suddenly, even though it's clear that I want to create a customer here, I have two ways of doing this. So what I like to do behind the scene in cases like this is actually say, okay, so now we have this create customer. So let's in here go and call create customer and pass this one. So now the second version actually calls the first version, and then we can do customer validate name, comma, our parameter name. And let's modify that. So now the second one uses the first one, which is a pattern that I use all the time when creating these. So actually, there's two ways of doing this. This is one way of doing it. The other way would be that let's say that we create one here, create customer, and then let's give we want a name, we want a posting group. That's a code 20. Oops, let me get out behind my head. Let's just do phone number. Just do one here, and then var customer record customer. So now this is the complicated one, and this is what we especially back in the nav world typically end up doing. But then it was unclear if we had to supply all parameters or we could omit any ones. So think about this, that if now I create this one as okay, we'll do let's do it like this. We'll grab and insert this guy, and then we'll do, actually we will also grab this, and then we'll do customer validate posting group, comment, what did you call it? We're back again, posting group, and customer validate phone number with phone number. Of course, there might not be a blank posting group, so we could, and this was what we usually did in nav, saying that let's actually give posting group a value, and only in that case we want to evaluate it, right? I don't think evaluating a blank name or evaluating a blank phone number is an issue, but posting group could be potentially, unless there is a blank posting group. So with this function in mind, that's the most complex one. What we could do is that we could rewrite this one. So instead of doing this, we will just call again create customer. And now we can see that we have three versions here, right? And we'll call it with name, and blank phone number, a blank posting group, blank phone number, and a customer. So we take the complexity out of figuring out if a parameter is optional. Some languages have the concept of optional parameters, like C#, where you can then define the default value. If this parameter has not been supplied, then we should just pretend that it has a certain value. This pattern kind of gives us that option, but takes the complexity out of it. So when we're the consumer of this, create customer, that I can see, okay, there's three versions here. There's one I don't do anything. There's one where I give the name, or one where I give everything. So there's no doubt in if I use this one and pass something blank. No, so I give people the choice here. Okay, I'll just use the right one because I know that's the parameters I have. This is the and if you look closer, and let's go and look at actually let's see here. We can do it like this. Let's get rid of this guy, and you probably, hopefully you've seen my video on the base64 stuff. Otherwise, subscribe and go check that out afterwards. So let's take a look at the base64 convert code unit. So if I do base64 dot, there's only two functions in this code unit, from base64 and to base64. So there's no question which one you should use, depending on if you're converting to or from. But let's say that we're converting to base64. Then I'd select that one and force the tooltip. Now we can see that there are 7, oh sorry, counting on fingers here. There's 7 different versions of to base64. Let's take a look at it. One that takes a string and returns a string. Great. One that takes a string and takes some text encoding, which that was actually the one we did here on the channel as a pull request to Microsoft as our version. There's one that also takes a code page, also one of our versions. There's one that takes a string and then a boolean where it insert line breaks. And one that takes a string and insert line breaks and takes text encoding and code page. And one that just takes a stream. And the last one takes a stream and insert line breaks. The stream version would already have encoding done before you need it, so there won't be a function with encoding and stream. But see, instead of, and let's do the other one before so if we do from base64, there are 4 versions. From a string with text encoding, from a string with a code page, and from a string and out into a stream. So imagine if we did not have overloading. So we press here and then you will have 11 functions. Now we have 2. So I find that's pretty cool. And actually, let me grab a quick browser. AL apps, where is it? I think it's somewhere here. If we go and find the base64 convert, go look at the source and go and look at, see the functions here. Let me make sure I make this bigger. I think this one just in the implementation call the function straight, but if we look at, sorry, this is the implementation, and you can see here that these are the 2 base. So the one that simply takes a string actually calls the version with string and insert line breaks. So it just prefix or defaults the line breaks to no. And the one that has the string and the line breaks actually call the one with string, insert breaks, text encoding, and code page. And text encoding without a code page just passes a 0. And so on. So we come down to the one function down here that actually does all the stuff. That's the one with all the functions. So kind of the same pattern as the second one I showed here, where we have the complex version, and then the simpler versions just calls the complex version and default the missing parameters. So in this case, this one will do all the encoding in the last function, and the other 6 versions of 2base64 are just calling down and defaulting parameters into this one. So as I said, this is a pattern that I really like. This is a pattern that makes your code simpler to understand. There's nothing more confusing than you find something that you think is the right function, and there are 8 parameters you need to fill out in order to call this function, and you only have 2. And from your mind, the 2 that makes sense, but what about the other 6? Think if we were in the base 64 again, and the only one, let's do the 2 base 64. The only one we had was, oops, for some reason the up arrow never works. I'm not sure where that is a bug, but that one works. So if you only had this one and we were unsure about text encoding and code pages and all that, then that'll be confusing. But now we can just, I have a string and I want a string, so I call the first one and I don't think about all the rest. I think that's pretty cool. Anyway, that's overloading, and it's a concept we have had for, I'm gonna say, decades in other languages that might be pushing it, since most of these languages are around 20 years, the other languages. But overloading makes a lot of sense. I love it. Try it out, and I think the subscribers of your code will really enjoy the clarity it gives. Then until next time, remember to subscribe, and let me know in the comments below what you have used overloading for. I would love to hear about some great examples, or let me know if you hate it and why. I would love to know that also. Anyway, until next time, have a wonderful day.